This Racing Life with Albasti Equiworld, the leading supplier of horse feeds and supplements.
We've come to Fairyhouse racecourse in Ireland for this week's episode of This Racing Life, a special edition ahead of the Winter Festival.
We caught up with some legends of the sport to look back at some of their biggest days on the track and find out what makes this place so special. Here's what's coming up.
Came here as a young kid as well with my family. Saw plenty of great horses winning, the likes of the Hatton's Grace and the Drinmore over the years. Lucky enough to see Yistabrack winning, Moscow Flyer, Limestone Lad. I was here with Barry Geraghty, won his Grand National as well. There was a huge atmosphere that day. That was a really special day to be here.
I probably had put it out of my mind, the importance of the race, because I'd done so badly in it. But to win it, yeah, it really rushed into me of what it meant, having grown up locally, but like it is a race of such status in this country. And to finally get it was amazing.
I suppose you get through your 20s, it was probably all about riding, and then as you said, what am I going to do next, what's my next step? Training probably wasn't, it was something that you'd have loved to give it a go, but it probably wasn't realistic for me at the start. I didn't have a farm or a yard, so you were only going to have to try and rent, start off small, see if it worked.
And what really made it magic for me was Ruby was on board on all occasions. And it was a family affair. I would have been, as I said often before, been delighted if Ruby had ridden the winner of the National for anybody. I'd have been his proudest punch. But the fact that he was ours, I trained him, and he was owned by Betty Moran, who was a great friend of the family's, kind of a fairy godmother. And everything was just fell into place. One of those magical times. I don't think it will ever happen again.
Well, John, Fairyhouse is one of the most iconic and historic racecourses in the country. What is it about this place that you think makes it so special?
Listen, the heritage in Fairyhouse is just something incredible. There's been racing here since 1848. We've had the Grand National here since 1870. So there's a huge amount of history has passed through the gates here in Fairyhouse. The local community makes a huge amount to happen here, and that's obviously a key factor to it. But there's always a great atmosphere. Every time you come racing here in Fairyhouse, there's always a great atmosphere, and that's what really drives it. The amount of unbelievably good horses that have run here over the years it really makes it what it is. I mean, the heritage and the history behind the racecourse, the winners that have been here, the likes of Brown Lad, Arkle, Desert Orchid, all those great horses. You could name so many of them that have won races here, won big races here. That's what makes it. I mean, between that and the people come when the good horses come here, and it's just something special every time.
Was that what drew you to the track?
Absolutely, yeah. Look at, and this is one of Ireland's premier racecourses. It's right up there at the top of the tree with along with a couple others that are, there for everybody to see. Like, one of my earliest racing memories is seeing Desert Orchid winning the Grand National here. I was probably 5 or 6 at the time. So that gives you an idea of how far back Fairyhouse comes in my memory. I came here as a young kid as well with my family. Saw plenty of great horses winning, the likes of the Hatton's Grace and the Drinmore over the years. Lucky enough to see Yistabrack winning, Moscow Flyer, Limestone Lad. I was here with Barry Geraghty, won his Grand National as well. There was a huge atmosphere that day. That was a really special day to be here when Barry won that one with Shut the Front Door.
It's a brilliant track, but coming here as a kid and watching the Grand National and dreaming of winning it, and brilliant finishes, and seeing Desert Orchid here winning it, and I remember standing at the last fence. I was only 10 or 11 watching Adrian Maguire win it on a Murta, beating Charlie Swan and Carawalla Howe, and yeah, magic times. And then fortunate enough to come on and ride here, and and had lots of good success.
And what challenges does the track present? What do you find the nuances of Fairyhouse?
It's probably a very fair track. There's a good climb away from the stands. You'll see the fences on the outside track. There's 3 there for the Grand National. You turn across the top, you have 3 fences across the top. They are tricky enough. The first one is a ballyhack, as we call it. You're turning the corners, you're climbing the hill. That's probably the trickiest fence on the course. Runs down over the next, the plain, then the ditch. Really tricky fence, the last ditch. You have 3 on the side, and you've 3 in the straight for the Grand National. It varies for different meetings, 2 or 3, but it's a very fair track. The climb here would be the steepest part of it. It runs down. It wouldn't be the test of stamina, if you like, of somewhere like Cheltenham or Ascot or Navan with a big hill finish. but it's a very prolonged finish from 5 out. You know, it's good to be on reasonable ground. You'd want to be closer to the pace, but it's a really fair track. So I think it suits most horses, if you like. And ground is generally, you would get reasonable ground here through the winter and nice ground at Easter.
Previously we were speaking and you said your favourite win at the track was winning the Irish Grand National here on Shut the Front Door in 2014. Talk us through that day. It must have been magic.
Yeah, I'd ridden probably about 15 or 16 times in the Grand National at that stage, and I'd say I'd probably ridden maybe 10 favourites or close to favourites, and nothing went close at all. So I'd say I was never in the first 6 or 7, and I knew he had a great chance. So AP was meant to ride him, but he was suspended, so I got the call up to ride him for John Joe O'Neill and JP McManus, which was brilliant. But he was deadly on the day, jumped class, got a nice position, not far off the pace with 5 to jump. And it was a real tight finish, but he was a strong finisher. But his jumping probably was what won it, and he was quick and slick at the last and galloped to the line. So I probably had put it out of my mind, the importance of the race, because I'd done so badly in it. But to win it, yeah, it really rushed into me of what it meant, having grown up locally. But like, it is a race of such status in this country, and to finally get it was amazing.
And coming into the parade ring afterwards, I can't even imagine what the buzz would have been like, your local track and all your friends and family there, and what a day it must have been.
Absolutely, and all my family were there, kids were there as well, and you know, but even for the week after that, locally, you're calling into the shop to get something, and you know, people will be there that you might know, and they'll be saying well done, and they backed him or they backed something else or whatever. But just it was a real buzz for the week. You could feel it, and so it's a great one to have got. I'm really cherished that day.
And your brother had won it a good few years before you, so I bet he told you a few times that it was one you were missing off your CV.
Yeah, no, I wasn't getting away with that. Ross won it in 2002 on the Bunny Boiler. No, he wasn't the greatest jumper in the world, but Ross managed to get him in. So it's finally, eventually, even the score, Ross.
And how often do you come back now?
I would come here racing a lot. I work with the Irish Jockeys Association, so I would come to Fairyhouse a lot, and I do a good bit of TV work here with RT as well. So it's a great track, and it's great connection, but it's local, and it's nice to be here, nice to bring the kids and have a good day.
Fairyhouse used to be a 2-day meeting every year. No other day in the year that they race in Fairyhouse, only Easter Monday and Tuesday. And I always remember going there with my dad. Easter Monday we'd go to see Arkle and Flying Bolt in the Grand National. Those horses, I reared up with them in the early 60s, and they were they were the icons of that time, Pat Taff and Tom Draper and Fairyhouse. And I don't think I ever saw two better horses together since. I've seen lots of great horses, but the two of them were majestic horses. To be in the 1 yard, ridden by the same man, it was just, for me, it was when I grew up with a teenager, like somebody watching Pele or something like that in the soccer. I grew up with them, and then always aspired maybe that I'd have a horse good enough not to be one of them. I wasn't stupid enough to think you were going to come across something like that, but I was always hoping we'd get a good horse, maybe go back and have a chance in Irish National. Rode in it a few times, was placed in it, didn't manage to win it, just touched off 1 year, but I looked like winning going to the last. Tammy Finn beat me on Luska. I was riding Pillar Bray, and then I went back and Papillon just got beaten up with Ruby, and then we won it with Comanche Court. Ruby's won it a couple of times, and then Katie's had a great success there too on Thunder and Roses. So great memories with Fairyhouse, and it's a special place, as is Punchestown, as is Naas, as is the Curragh if you're into flat horses.
We have to bring up 1999 and 98 when you rode Bobby Joe in the Irish National and then subsequently the Grand National. But what was your thoughts and feeling going into the Irish National?
I thought he had a great chance. I knew he had, and I was lucky to get the ride because I was working for Mr. Ogden at the time, and there was obviously a bank holiday, and there's a good few race meetings in England at the time. So lucky enough, he let me off to ride the horse, and I thought he had a great chance. So.
And you had a real ding-dong battle with Ruby on Papillon.
Yeah, I got a nice lead off him, and I know if it was run again a couple of years later, he would have been doing it to me. But anyway, yeah, jumped the last 3 fences very well and kept that out.
Do you and Ruby discuss that?
No, he won't. I doubt he likes talking about that.
But he mentioned it, a magic month, Papillon in the Grand National, Comanche Court in the Irish National, and then he went and backed it up at Punchestown later on.
Yeah.
What do you remember from that whole period of time?
I remember very, very clearly. It was a special occasion. A month as I said, the month, and anyone ever asked me, would you like to go back in time? I said, I'd like to go back to when I was 40, year 2000, for the month of April. Everything went right. As I said, Papillon won the national. That was a magic day. And what really made it magic for me was Ruby was on board on all occasions. And it was a family affair. I would have been, as I said often before, been delighted if Ruby had ridden the winner of the national for anybody. I'd have been as proud as punch. But the fact that he was ours, I trained him, and he was owned by Betty Moran, who was a great friend of the family's, kind of a fairy godmother. And everything was just fell into place. One of those magical times. I don't think it will ever happen again. Willie, I think, explained it well when he, on all the success he's had, that the national that Patrick rode this year was so much different. It is so much different. It's family. You would want to be a parent to really realise how much it means to be part of that. I'm sure people, Andy Farrell, who's manager of the Irish rugby team now, his son plays for England, and I mean, if he was managing the team that won the World Cup and his son was on it, to be the same thing. You know, it's just
different.
A unique occasion, but lucky to be experienced it.
And as you look forward into Fairyhouse in the future, what would you hope to achieve over the next couple of years? Where do you hope Fairyhouse would be in 5 years' time?
The business for us is all about the racing side of things. So whatever kind of profits and revenues that we can make from other activities is obviously being driven back into the racing side of things. So increasing the quality of the racing is a key thing. You know, and improving the facilities as much as we can, bringing it and being able to provide as much as we can for the customers coming in the gate. That's of huge importance to us as well. So like there's a long list of things that we're looking to work on. So we're kind of kick-starting that journey now, and hopefully then in the next couple of years people will start to see some big improvements here.
Just a few miles down the road from Fairyhouse is the yard of Ross O'Sullivan, who has enjoyed a successful summer on the track, training alongside wife Katie and father-in-law Ted.
So we're probably really lucky because these facilities were already here, and sure with my father-in-law Ted, and he trained so many good horses here. You know, he I suppose there's national winners and Cheltenham winners been trained already off these gallops. So we were lucky enough when we came and we built the first yard in 2017. You know, start off with 33 boxes, build the first barn, build something along the lines of a nice big airy barn that everyone likes to have. We're location-wise only 15 minutes from the Curragh, half an hour from Dublin, and it's a great place to train horses. You know, you're so close to all the race courses. Facility-wise, 2 really good gallops, Wexford sand, around circular, 4 furlongs, and a straight gallop that works really well. Again, 4 furlong gallop, and I suppose when you come here first and you try and, you know, it's all about trial and error, and you're kind of doing too much or too little, and then trying to get a system that works. And I suppose the last couple of years we kind of found our system, you know, and you'll only work that out when the horses start running. You know what each horse, and you know what kind of suits. So we kind of have a good system the last couple of years, and it really works really well. And it suits. It's a great place to train. Like I said, it's been a lucky place for Ted all over the years, and he's still having loads of winners and having a good time of it. So like it really works really well with the 3 things going on. With Katie with her breeze up horses, she's busy, you know, a lot of the time. She has her thing going on. Ted is obviously his race horses, and then we have our thing, and they all work out of the one farm, but it seems to work really well.
It's a horsey family, so we talk about it in general like people would in a football family or anything else. It's just general chat, whether he had a good day or a bad day, or vice versa, how Katie's getting on to sales or how she's getting on when she goes around to selling them. And it's interactive. We're all having a good time. It's good, and it doesn't work that way. And sometimes when things are not going right, we're there to maybe help one another, you know. So it's a healthy atmosphere, you know, and we're far enough apart, as I said, that we don't get in one another's hair.
Yeah, absolutely. And what makes this place so conducive of training racehorses, would you say?
Well, sure, most places are good enough. If you've good enough horses, it's easy enough to train them. Some places, there are plenty of facilities here that you'd want. The Curragh is only 15 minutes down the road if you want to go there. It's very well located for people in our business. Naas is 3 miles over the road, Punchestown is 4, the Curragh is 12, Leopardstown is 15, Navan, Fairyhouse is 17 or 20 miles away. So you have the best tracks in the country within a half an hour if you want to go in a box, and 10 minutes if you're in the car. My dad used to walk the horses to Naas, out the back gate, and walk over to Naas, about a mile and a half from the back gate. And you wouldn't do that now with the cars on the road, but we could do that. And it's easy to get. It's a good locality for Katie's business. Other than we say she's in the sales, Goffs straight across the road. Go down, walk across the road, and she's in Goffs. And it's a good location. Now there's disadvantages, we'll say, it's a town, Kill village is not far away and Johnstown village is not far away, so you have that kind of thing. It's not out in the countryside isolated, but then you haven't got maybe the quietness you'd have in some places either, but that's the price you pay.
What would have been your highlight in the saddle, the best day you had?
A couple of great highlights. Obviously got to ride in Cheltenham, just got beaten at Kingmuir, finishing second on a horse called Open Eyed. That was exciting to do that. I had broken my collarbone 2 weeks beforehand, and first of all it was the excitement of trying to get back to, or the excitement of riding in Cheltenham, then break your collarbone and trying to get back to ride the horse. And then he was to finish second, and would have loved if he'd won, but there was, a couple of spins in Cheltenham.
You won the Banks race at Punchestown
yes,
for Ted?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he was good to me. It was great. A horse called Wedge Party. I was second on the first year, just got beat on the line. Won on the following year, and then Katie jocked me off, probably rightly so, and she went on and won on him as well. He was a great horse, great Banks horse, great thrill to ride over the Banks races, in those Banks races. There was loads of highlights along the way, loads of winners and things like that. It's a lovely life, if you can do it and enjoy it. There's nothing better doing. Like someone said to me, you won't be any good at anything unless you love what you're doing or like what you're doing. So like I said, when you're doing it, it doesn't feel like work, and I didn't regret anything.
Was that a time that you were with Katie when you were riding the Banks race for Ted?
Yeah, Katie was, we started going out young. We were only say Katie was 19, I was 21, and then all through her 20s we were going out. I was probably, Katie was only starting out riding and getting going, and then she went to Willie's and she took off, and she was definitely getting on a lot better than I was. And I'd say she did a great run with Willie at the time before Patrick was around. Jamie Codd was there at the time, and then Jamie had ridden out his claim, and then Katie arrived on the scene, and she obviously had a 7-pound claim, and maybe Willie wanted to use them likes of the fillies and things like that. So Katie had a great run then all the way through. We were definitely going racing together for a while at some stage, and then I suppose I was near the end of my the late 20s, and Katie had continued on obviously well into her 30s before she retired at 34, 35.
Mm-hmm. And was training always in the back of your mind when you were riding?
I definitely enjoyed it. Like say from early days, we always had a horse at home, and we lived on the edge of the Curragh. So there was always, at the time, I suppose the idea was to have a horse so that you could ride. So we were, you were training the horse or riding the horse out every day, exercising the horse. I suppose you get through your 20s, it was probably all about riding, and then as you said, what am I going to do next? What's my next step? Training probably wasn't, it was something that you'd have loved to give it a go, but it probably wasn't realistic for me at the start. I didn't have a farm or a yard, so you were only going to have to try and rent, start off small, see if it worked, see if you were really, if you could get a grasp of it at all.
And Katie rode plenty of winners for you. What was the dynamic like working with Katie in such close contact?
Yeah, it was great because she was, it was great to have her. Because she's a great judge of riding work, so she knew the horses, and there was winners along the way. There was the grey filly Bay des Îles, who turned out to be a superstar for us, and my first probably real good horse to come into the yard. Katie had ridden her a few times over hurdles, and then she went chasing, and she won the national trial on her. There was the build-up then going for the English National that year, plenty of interviews, and it gave us a bit of profile, I suppose. And I suppose there was extra excitement and also stress and pressure and things like that. But it was lovely, and she was a great filly to have. She was owned by Zork and Charles Wentworth, and she won a Cunningham Cup, she won a national trial, she ran in Welsh National, she was 5th in the Welsh National. It was a great filly to have in the yard at the time, good profile. So Katie would have ridden her, and then she retired. The year she retired, she went on, and the filly went on and won in a big race in Auteuil, Prix de Drag, Paul Townend won on her. But there was great winners. There was loads of rows along the way. I always remember the way that Katie winning the Irish National on Thunder and Roses. We had a horse that had just won his Point to Point, and he won really impressively. A horse called Call It Magic. And the same weekend as the Easter Festival, there's the Easter Festival in Cork, so double meetings. And Call It Magic was going for a bumper. He was working really well, and Katie wanted to ride him. But there was 2 bumpers. He was entered on a Sunday and a Monday. And obviously the National was on a Monday in Fairyhouse. But we said that, she says, what are you going to do with the horse? And I said, well, I'm going to run Monday. So in a bumper Monday. He was entered Sunday and Monday, but I said, we'll go Monday. So that's fine. She says, a couple of people on to me about, I'm trying to get a ride. And she says, I want to ride Call It Magic. She said, because Tom Gibney had rang her for the ride on Lena Barney, who had won the national the year before. She had turned him down to say that she was going, because she was going to ride Call of Magic. So anyway, declarations for Sunday were on Friday, and for the day before, and I changed my mind, which I can do, at 5 to 10, and decided I was going to run Call of Magic on the Sunday instead of the Monday. So I rang Katie to tell her. Of course, she's after turning down the ride on the winner, the previous winner, the year before. She's not very happy. You can tell on the phone. A lot of strong words. Anyway, it all worked out great. 15 minutes later, Katie's down. She's down to ride Call of Magic on the Sunday, and she goes to try and get back on Lena Barney for Tom Givney. He'd already booked someone else, so she's even angrier. And again, the phone rings at 10:30 at Sandra Hughes to say, would you like to ride Thunder and Roses for the Jigginstown? That Eddie O'Leary had said that he'd like you to ride it, and next minute she rides the horse and he goes and wins the national. So it was all meant to happen. So I was back in the good books.
Well, at least she stayed loyal to you to start with.
She did. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was going to last after that. Yeah.
Oh, that must have been a magic day though, because Ted was broadcasting on RTE. You and the family were obviously all there. What do you remember from that day?
I suppose the history of everything. Nina had won it, and obviously Nina's married to Ted. She'd won it for Arthur. Ted had trained obviously Comanche Court to win it. It was great history. So for Katie to come along, like, you know, there was years there where she had ridden in Irish Nationals, and obviously the main aim is to get a ride in an English National or an Irish National, the same as an English National. And then, like, you know, considering winning it, it doesn't really come into it. You think, you hope that you run well. So for that all to meant to be, it just goes to show sometimes things are meant to be. It all fell into line, and yeah, it was magic. There's a picture in the house there on the wall of Thunder and Roses, and it's a lovely story.
Horses are such an important part of the fabric here in Ireland, and not just in racing. We've come down to the Jack de Bromhead Equine Centre, where they're helping disadvantaged children in a whole host of fascinating ways. Well, Lisa, we've just seen Sadie in the arena this morning, and we could see her face light up when she walked through the doors here. Tell us a little bit about what you were doing with Sadie this morning.
So Sadie is in our preschool here, and so she comes to equine for the physical, building up her physical strength, because of the way the movement of the horse mimics that human movement. That builds up her core strength and her muscles for walking, and then also we're encouraging her to work on her grip and using her, particularly her left hand, and holding on. And so what we were doing was we have little pictures of fairies. Sadie's mad about fairies. And we have a fairy garden on our sensory trail. So we find the fairies and she can pick one that she takes home each week. So it's getting her to use her vision, tell Cody what to do, point, learn left and right, etc., etc.
And so talk us through the physical benefit that you see the horses have on the children with their stability and their strength.
So when you sit on a horse, your hips and your pelvis are moved in the same movement pattern as if you were walking correctly. And so what that does then is it develops the muscles that are needed for that. And also a horse, when you sit on a horse, you're constantly using your core to rebalance and adjust yourself. So you're developing that core stability, and core stability is really important for gross muscle function and then progressing on to fine muscle. So if you're not stable through your core and your head and neck and trunk, you can't work on pincer movements or speech and things like that. And what can be achieved on a horse, say, in a minute, compared to what could be achieved, say, in a physio gym, is not comparable, because the horse is just moving you, like you're moving your body. I think it's like 200 different movements per rotation. So it's a massive thing. There's another factor actually as well, is when you sit on a moving object, it stimulates what's called your vestibular system, which is another one of your senses, which is your balance in your inner ear. And your vestibular system is also involved in attention and focus, which is why we shouldn't sit down to learn things. We should move around. Children shouldn't sit down in classrooms. We should move around when we're learning, because that's how we're designed to learn. So obviously when you're sitting up on a horse, you're constantly moving and activating your vestibular system. So you're increasing your attention and focus, and also retention of learning.
And so as well as the arena you've got here, you've got an outdoor trail that you can use as well. Tell us a little bit about that.
So the trail is like, we call it our little oasis in the city. And it's sort of there's parts of it where you're almost completely enclosed in the trees, which is really lovely. And we go out there and we have like little boxes that are that we put things in. We do treasure hunts and different games, and then it's also in the groups. It's working on taking turns, and yes, you know, you might open the box and there's 3 or 4 things in there, and take one but leave one for your friend, and telling the horse what to do, when to stop, when to go left, when to go right, and it splits and you can make choices and stuff. So we can work on communication as well.
And for Sadie, how long has she been coming to the centre?
So Sadie's been coming since she started in preschool this September. She was quite nervous the first couple of times, and so she started on this little lady here, Jessie, who's very small, and it makes them a lot more confident. And then she's progressed on to Cody, and she's desperate to progress onto bigger horses.
Well, you could see the confidence that she had coming through the doors. You would never know that she was nervous the first time.
It's very unusual that they can be very nervous, the children, and we just take our time. But it's very unusual for a child, once they're up, to not just do it again and again and again and again after that.
And so how many children would you have coming through the doors each week here?
Well, at the moment we see roughly about 130, 140 a week, and that's a combination of children from the preschool and the primary school here, and some of it, there's also an adult residential service in Child Vision, so we see a few people from that, and then we see children coming from school groups, which would be autistic children from their class groups. And because of our location in Dublin city centre, these are inner city kids, so children who wouldn't have access to large animals, nature, etc. on a regular basis. And then we see a lot of community groups again from the inner city, and these would be families who are groups of parents with children with a disability, quite often neurodiversity, and then also individual clients referred.
How much of a transformation do you see in the children kind of month on month when they come here regularly?
It's huge. It's interesting. You can see some children. It's not actually what happens here. Sometimes it can be what happens at home as well. For example, I have a little boy who started in August, who is 3, nearly 4, autistic, and he's pre-verbal. He's very sort of within himself, and very, very sensory, and what's called tactile avoidance. So he's like this with the horse, and after his first session he slept through the night. Now that's not something that happens in their house. His mum said she actually still got up twice that first night just to check he was all right, because he doesn't sleep through the night. He now comes, he's been coming weekly since then, and he slept through the night every night after his session. So that's a huge thing for a family. That's huge. Like she said, you know, we know one night a week we are all going to get a good 8-10 hours sleep. And then it's other things, that the whole confidence, like you say, the confidence getting on the horse spills into other areas of life. And then there's the whole physical thing, the strength of developing from the core and being able to develop your muscle tone spills into other areas.
And so this incredible facility is named after Jack de Bromhead. How influential has the family been in helping design and set up the whole facility here?
The family have been amazing. They're really involved in the whole process. They've been up here several times, and they really get what we do here, understand the therapeutic value of it. They also understand the importance of our location in the city centre, and the fact that we can offer this service to children and young adults who would never experience a service like this. Horses are disappearing from people's lives. People are becoming more and more urbanised and not experiencing animals. Even in Dublin, which was a city that, when I first moved here 25 years ago, you did see horses on the streets of Dublin all the time. And so it's nice to have a facility and a service that people can access who would never have access to a service like this.
And it's just incredible that they've been able to transform such tragic loss into something so inspiring.
Yeah, it is. And again, that's where we feel we really want to do our best to live up to what they want us to achieve.
Well, that's all we've got time for on this week's Irish episode of This Racing Life. Thank you to everyone that has opened their doors to us, everyone at Fairyhouse Racecourse, Barry Geraghty, Ross O'Sullivan, Paul Carberry, and of course everyone here at the wonderful Jack de Bromhead Equine Centre. It truly is an inspiring place. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you all again next time.
This Racing Life with Albasti Equiworld. the leading supplier of horse feeds and supplements.
Watch live racing now on racingtv.com.